Buddy, my name is Michael Camo. I'm director of content for T3 Live, and I'm here with David Prince. We're here to talk Nvidia, Palantir, Snap, and other goings on in the market. So, David, we sort of had a fun, classic inner circle moment yesterday. So, Palantir was popping after earnings, and it was one of those rare moments where you kind of yell at everybody to shut up and listen, and you were kind of screaming on the mic that Palantir was not going to hold. So, what did you see there yesterday?
Sure. I always prep everyone like, where are we during this earnings season? In other words, are we bullish? Is the climate not expecting much, or is everyone bearish? And there's less of a hurdle to jump over into earnings. And in the case of Palantir, we knew that there was a decent sized hurdle. Stock had just gone up about 20%. It is not a cheap stock, right? Trades at a million times sales, not literally, but high valuation. And it's heavily retail, so a lot of people already own it. So we saw the numbers, saw the guide, and the guide was below the whisper. And frankly, just an okay guide. Like, they have some momentum, they're doing well, they have their government contract. But in short, it was not great guidance. It was very average, and the stock was up 2, or more so, just specifically now up like 25% off recent lows. I said 26 won't hold. So that is a great short opportunity. And many people went short. And then, I don't look on these after hour trades. If I have an edge, I express it. I explain why I think something might happen, but I also don't shoot for like the absolute home run. So we got into a level that I believe was like the 50 or 100 day. I'm not looking at the chart. I said, 22s will be a good area to take profits and be done. And that is Palantir, and how we went about it last night after the print.
Okay, another one name you exited yesterday was Snap. Now, Snap is quite an interesting stock because I feel like this stock destroys a ton of people every quarter, and this is finally the quarter where it worked. So, could you walk us through the Snap from start to finish?
Sure. Like everyone else, I've bought calls a few times prior to earnings. I always like to buy it a few weeks before. They go up like 100%. I sell some, I hold some, and inevitably those always go to zero. But I'm playing with house money, so I can win. But I've always been prepared, because for me, trading isn't about the day, the week, the month. It's about sizable gains in a few key ideas that, for me at least, and I think most good traders, move the needle over 12 months or a decade. It's going to be 20 names. It's not like, it's not being right 90% of the time. And there's nothing more that I like better than seeing a stock come out of a range after a long base where there's a fundamental change that you combine with a nice technical outlook. So before Snap had earnings, I said, listen, odds are they're going to disappoint like they always do. And this was really where I focused. I said, but if by chance they've turned the corner and things are better and the stock is up 20, by the way, any large fund thinks like this. This is like a hint for those that are new. And I'll explain where I'm going with a large fund in a second. But if I said, if it's up 25 or 30% on really positive news and a change, then I'm really confident it's going up 50 or 60%. And if you know how institutions work, they don't want to catch the bottom, right? They have no interest in pot shots. They'd much rather make a much more secure 20 or 30% without taking a whole lot of risk than taking a whole lot of risk and making 80%. Any day of the week, the institutions that actually move these stocks will much rather look for that 20 or 30% to buy size and have, say, an 80, 90% chance of being right versus a 50% chance of being right and making 100%. So if you're with me, that's why when you see a huge change on a Snap, which I compare to Carvana, Affirm, and many other small caps that had an enormous green candle that you combine with a fundamental change in the right macro atmosphere, and it usually works. So Snap, I went bananas, and they had that report, and I said, listen, I know it feels crazy, but got to own some. So we really focused between 1380 and 1420. And every time it went to 15 for a day or two, I trimmed a little bit, and then I came back to 14, I'd add. And then when it got through that earnings high, I said, listen, just let this run. Don't be too cute. And I was patient. Sometimes I'm known to be a little impatient. This one I was really patient. And I finally got out yesterday. As it came into my price target, I've always said 17 seems realistic, so I got flat. But it's about my as favorite classic a setup as I get. For me, I love those setups, so I went all in.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's talk about Nvidia. So you got out yesterday. You jumped in it after Meta's earnings when it dipped under 780. So could you walk us through what Meta said that got you into Nvidia and where you came up with 780, which was, as people could see on the chart on the screen, was very, very close to that low the next day, and it was there for like the blink of an eye.
Sure. So what I like to do is look beyond the charts, not because I'm smart, just because I'm not some expert chartist, and I believe that gives you an edge if you have something beyond the charts. So what Meta told us was, we're going to spend a lot of money on AI, on chips, and I get it. The street's bummed because maybe it'll eat into our earnings, but business is just fine. We're just going to do a bit more spending than everyone originally thought. Well, they're going to do some spending on Nvidia. And Nvidia went down with the rest of the market, down about 20. And I thought, let me get this right. So Nvidia is picking up business from one of the biggest clients they can possibly have, Meta. It's directly related probably to Blackwell, but the stock's down 20. If anything's to bounce, the first stock to bounce is going to be Nvidia, because this is actually indeed good news. But moreover, we now have a 22% pullback in the most important stock in the market, because anyone who's really paying attention knows it's not Apple, it's Nvidia for probably the last year, but at least the last 6 months. So I said, if I'm wrong on Nvidia, I'm going to be wrong on the whole market. I'm very comfortable owning it here. I know the level below here will be closer to 756, where I bought a few days before and actually caught a 50% move. 50-point move, excuse me. I wish 50%. So I really like this spot because we have fundamentals matching up. We have some technicals matching up because we already bottomed down near here. And now that everyone has freaked out, because as I bought this stock, a lot of people who are just about charts are like, it's broken, it's beneath the averages, there's room to 690, the top's in, guys like you have to have your butt handed to them for the market to bottom, all that, everyone gets loud. And usually when everyone gets loud and it's only about the charts, that's where I step in if I feel I have a fundamental edge. And for me, I'm not very smart, but the edge was trading at a multiple that's reasonable considering how fast it's growing. And it's not time for the market to end because we actually have a Fed that is warming up to cutting rates. Okay, very comfortable owning it here. And then more importantly, and I'm still working on this, I finally am getting a little better. Not great, but getting better. So this is a real correction. This could easily rally to 900. Let me make sure I'm still in it and not take the first 50 or 60 easy. So we rallied into a level that I thought seemed like a good spot to get out. So I didn't know this news with Apple would come out today, but I got out yesterday as we came into a pivot level that was 920 and said, that's like 140 points in short order, I don't know, a week or two. It's time to get flat. I'll look to buy a pullback, and that is our Nvidia trade.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about Inner Circle in a minute because I think this is a good time to sort of take a look back at how the community's developed. But David, quickly, Viking Therapeutics has been an Inner Circle favorite. I know you switched to calls recently, which is probably a good move because it's been shooting up. NVO had great earnings. Could you give us a quick update on Viking? Because, everybody's talking about weight loss stocks. It's the biggest story in biotech and healthcare. So what do you see with Viking?
What I see is I see a property that's worth a hell of a lot more than where it's trading. That probably is closer to something like 17, 18, $20 billion valuation, not 10 or 9, that probably has a much better read-through on side effects than any other product on the market. And that matters because I know people, I have a good friend in Inner Circle that's been in the hospital from taking these meds. I'm not saying people aren't going to take them. Excuse me, because I got to quiet the chat. But the bottom line is, side effects mean something. And they probably have the best read through out of anyone. I get it. They're a little late, meaning, there's some bigger players, right? Obviously, Lilly and Novo, but it's just too big a market, and there are too many healthcare companies out there that need to buy growth. They can't do it organically. They have to come for it. The same way we saw Pfizer go after Seagen, we're going to see it with VKTX or Viking, in my opinion. So anytime the stock's been ugly, I buy it. I ignore the chart. I buy it where I think the valuation's too cheap. I've been playing calls. Once it got under 70, I went back to stock because I thought the risk reward was too good to be true. So I bought 69. Once we rallied into 77, 78, I sold the stock. I went to calls. I've been in the June calls, and they've been paying well. I bought some yesterday as low as the 5s. They rallied today to the 8s. I trimmed some. I'll constantly hold some because I do think it's no longer a standalone company eventually. Timing is always tough. So that's why with options, I always take some profits. But great property has definitely some benefits. A lot of people are going to talk about, oh, they don't have the cash flow. My God, you know how many people are standing in line to give them the money to get to market? There's a million pharmaceutical companies out there they'll either partner with or they'll just buy them. So it's a great stock. I buy it on weakness. I do not buy it when the chart looks great and it's up 10 points in a straight line. It's not the type of stock that I enjoy doing that with, because there's these e-liquid pullbacks where it'll be down 7 or 8 for no reason. I take advantage of those. So I really think the nuances and how you trade a stock like this probably are important, or they have been to me.
Okay, all right. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Inner Circle. So Inner Circle is David's virtual trading floor room. It's our most expensive ETF. It's $6,000 a year. And David, I'll make a confession. When you floated this idea to T3, I thought it was insane. I actually thought it was so if I had my say, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But it's grown in a huge way, especially over the last year. Inner Circle has really taken off and surpassed our expectations, both in terms of, the number of members, but the quality of the experience. So why did you have that conviction that Inner Circle even made sense in the first place?
It was for a need that had zero to do with money, because this is not a profitable endeavor for me. It takes a lot of my energy. Not that I don't love it, but that's not what it's about. Trading is how I make a living. But what I always thought was, and it's panned out to be this way, $6,000 in the grand scheme of things, if we are doing our job right, and if the chat works the way I view it, is too cheap. And I have zero problem saying I could name 20 people on the chat who would agree. They're like, it's like, seriously, for the amount of time you dedicate, it's a joke. I make that in one trade, sometimes in an hour, sometimes in a minute. So why did I do it? Was not because anyone's better, but I always wanted a place where I wasn't the big shot, where there were guys brighter than me, where we were all sharing information, and we could, really as a unit make like something special. And there are guys running some of the biggest, not guys, there's a few guys that have run some of the biggest firms on Wall Street on this chat. There are guys who have run, $150 million books that are still active. There are guys who are experts in biotech. There are guys who, traded some of the biggest books on the oil floor. So now that we created this community, there's great idea flow. It's not just about charts and cute little day trades. It's become a special place where there are like lives that change. So the idea was, hey, if you charge enough, right, there are a lot of people who don't take this stuff seriously, and there's nothing wrong with them. They may be a big shot surgeon, doctor, lawyer, but they're not going to waste $6,000 if that's a lot of money to them. And frankly, I don't want many of those people on the chat, not because they're not wonderful, but I wanted people who do this and do it seriously so we could all as a community benefit. So the price point was more to create a certain dynamic, not really about making money.
Okay, and I do think people underrate sort of, because obviously nobody's going to stick around if they're not making money or if they're not getting value out of the ideas. But there is a lot of community cohesion where people in trading rooms, people can get very cranky, snipe at each other, but Inner Circle seems very, very together. Where do you think that comes from?
This has nothing to do, I want to make sure we're clear. This is just not me padding. I'm just giving you facts. That comes from literally building relationships with people. So a lot of times, right, I have people be like, listen, I made money, but I didn't make enough. Like, call me. I'm not excited to do this. I love them, but it takes a lot of time, but call me. So what ends up happening inevitably is between me, Rick, Kira, and people, you get to know who people are. Oh yeah, I ran a book of 5 million once upon a time. I'm worth 10 million. I have a 2 million trading account. This is my long-term money. I'm a nervous wreck. Every time I'm down something, I sell it at lows and then I buy higher. You get to know people, who they are, what their mistakes are, what their issues are, what their sometimes what their core competency is, and you become friends with these people. I've had people stay at my house from the inner circle, so it became a real community where we know each other. Now, are there people I'm sure that think I'm an idiot and don't like me? Of course, I'm kind of bit straightforward in how I go about things. So not everyone is best friends, but I would say most of us are pretty close and look out for each other and know about each other. Who's who? I mean, I know who people's wives are. I've gone to concerts with friends. I've had, I sound like a 4-year-old, sleepovers, but I've had friends stay here and stay with me. I've traveled across the country to other places to see some of these friends. So it's a real community where people know each other and in turn know what they're good at and maybe know where they need some help. And that's how it happened. That's how the community got built. We actually know each other.
All right, that's great. Okay, so one of the most common pieces of feedback we get is that you help people focus. So do you think most people are looking at too many things and trying to do too much?
Yes, I absolutely don't. Like, I had a fellow the other day. He's like, hey, and he might be listening, so I'm not making fun of him. I've never mentioned the name. I don't remember his name, but the idea, the concept behind what he said was so important. He's like, does anyone check, like, is there a place where we could see your percentage of wins versus losses? I'm like, no. But all my positions are out there. So are Rick's, so are Kira's, so are a lot of my friends. So it's very easy if you backtrack, they're all on the chat. But that's the last way I trade. But by the way, I told him, I said, if you look at it this week, you'd think I'm like a certifiable genius because I have Snap and I have Nvidia and I have like 8 million stocks up a lot. The NVX, I think, was up 40% from where I bought it. But I don't care about that. I said, and you shouldn't either. I said, what's really important is about buying enough of these key special ideas when it's time, like we did in Nvidia when everyone gave up on it below 800, or like we did with Snap during that great beat and raise quarter. I said, that's what makes a difference. Or like people who heard me about Clay and how important this immuno merger was and why at 7, it was an undiscovered gem that could change lives, and buying enough to matter and putting it away and still having some when it was 30. I said, that's why you come here. It is not to be right 90% of the time. And we have a really good rate, but that's not how you make money. You make money by sizing right and letting kind of an idea or a thesis see it through. In other words, because I've been this guy and made these mistakes, it's not buying Nvidia like we did that week at 780 and then being out at 810. It's actually having stock to sell when it's 900. And that's what the focus is about. Too many people very often are just looking at so many things, and they want to be involved in everything, and they make no real money on anything. They just have a couple cute trades on a few different things. And by the end of the day, they have one bad trade. All those gains are given back. My goal is for us to make enough money in an idea like Snap that the next 4 losers still won't eat into that game. That's how I like to trade. That's how I think proper trading is done. Now, sometimes there are no ideas, right? Like right now, we've had a tremendous rally. There's less meat on the bone for me, so I'm in cash flow mode. But when those ideas come, it's a matter of striking and taking a sizable enough position to do it. So the answer, that was long, is yes, people sometimes don't focus enough on key ideas because that's what moves the needle. For anyone, especially any famed money manager, it's very rarely about their percentage of wins and losses. It's almost always about big wins.
Okay, do you think this obsession with batting average, is it because people are too obsessed with being right?
No. Well, yes and no. I think most people, folk, no, I shouldn't say no. There's a good part of a group of people out there that are almost more concerned, and I think this happens when you're younger, in being right and looking like you're smart than making money. But I do believe if it becomes about making money, then there's just a few people that, not a few people, but a great amount of people that know how to read a chart, know how to buy the right stock, but they don't know how to manage winners and manage losers. So the answer is there's a half of the group that is just, they forget that the goal is to make money, not to look smart. And then the other half are still learning to manage money, meaning, oh my God, Nvidia's below 800, the chart's broken, it can go to 690. I'm going to wait till it goes to 690. Oh, it bounced 40. Now I feel comfortable. I'm going to buy it. That's not quality money management. Maybe for very short-term time frame moves, but you actually have to look beyond that and say, oh, the Fed might still cut rates. Oh, the AI trade, if you believe it, still has more to go. Oh, it trades at 30 times earnings. It's certainly growing faster than 30 times. Wait a second. We just had some bona fide strong reports, maybe not enough for the whole market, but certainly enough to say Nvidia's okay. Wow, Blackwell can do things that people didn't think could be done ever in the history of their lives. So when you put that together, that's how you make money. It's not just like, oh, it's through the 21 day and it looks strong and it's time to take risks. Those guys they're only getting like half or sometimes a third of the gain when you're waiting for everything to set up on the chart. Often you're missing the most important parts. Like I don't want to make fun of Kramer, but let me just say Twitter was so excited about NVIDIA yesterday. And I thought these same people were telling me I was a schmuck last week at 760 and 770 and 780. And now you're excited at 920. So I really think not, drinking the Kool-Aid and just using lines is important. Boy, I went on a tangent. Anyway, I hope that made sense.
Okay, David. No, we absolutely love your tangent. So everybody, so David has to get going. So very quickly, if you want to apply to work with David, go to t3live.com/DP, t3live.com/DP, and you can get all the information you need about Inner Circle. David, I apologize. I kept you 3 minutes over time. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for joining, David. People. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.